Donald Trump has, over the last few months, given a wink and a nod to QAnon any number of times. But for the first time yesterday, he was actually asked about it in a press conference. And here's what he had to say.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much. Which I appreciate, but I don't know much about the movement. I have heard that it is gaining in popularity, and from what I've heard, these are people that when they watch the streets of Portland, when they watch what happened in New York City in just the last 6 or 7 months, but this was starting even 4 years ago when I came here, almost 4 years, can you believe it? These are people that don't like seeing what's going on in places like Portland and places like Chicago and New York and other cities and states. And I've heard these are people that love our country and they just don't like seeing it. So I don't know really anything about it other than they do supposedly like me, and they also would like to see problems in these areas, like especially the areas that we're talking about, go away. Because
yeah, okay, so the only thing he's heard is that they like me. That's it. Nothing else. You know what? I'm just gonna get mad if I can't take the QAnon stuff. Rashad, what do you think about what happened yesterday? Him doing this.
All right, number one. So we know the code now, right? Here's the code. When Trump says it is, it isn't. When Trump says it isn't, it is. That's the code, not hard to figure out. So when he came out and said, I don't know much about these people. I know they like me. I don't know much about them. And then, John, he proceeds to tell the reporter more about QAnon than she knew, okay? So he starts going down this whole explanation about what they've done and what they stand for. But remember, he doesn't know anything about them. I'm starting to believe that he is QAnon. I think he's the guy, right? He's behind the whole thing in some manner, right? Now, remember this extreme right-wing conspiracy theorist group. They have said some of the most egregious things about black people, Jews. They have this sentiment known as the deep state, as if there's just this group of dark forces inside of the American government trying to get their beloved president. And anything that the president does wrong is because of the deep state and not because of Trump. But they got people that support them who are now major candidates for the US Congress. We have one in the 14th Congressional District in Georgia, supported QAnon. She won her primary against the medical doctor, and she will, 90%, she will win in the general election. And she's not the only one.
Exactly, yeah, it's a pandemic. The person who thinks that you get coronavirus because demons from the moon give it to you, beat a doctor. So that's good. That's the state of America. Yep. Yeah, and so look, I got more I want to say, but we got one more little bit of video on, he wanted to imply that he doesn't know anything about QAnon, even though, as Rashad points out, he then cited all the things that he says he knows. So he doesn't know any of the crazy stuff. So the reporter brings up some of the crazy.
Theory is this belief that you are secretly saving the world from this satanic cult of pedophiles and cannibals. Does that sound like something you are behind?
Well, I haven't heard that, but is that supposed to be a bad thing or a good thing? I mean, if I can help save the world from problems, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to put myself out there. And we are actually. We're saving the world from a radical left philosophy that will destroy this country. And when this country is gone, the rest of the world would follow. The rest of the world would follow.
Okay, so he's asked about the fact that he's supposed to be fighting against a centuries-old bipartisan group of satanic pedophiles who sell kids on Wayfair and drink their hormones while cutting off their face and putting the kid's face and putting it on their face and having sex with them. These are things that they believe, and he turns it into They're just worried about problems. And then most dangerously, because I know a lot of people think that this is just funny or whatever, he then says they just want the problems to be fixed. And he transitions immediately to, these are the left's problems that I'm fixing. So that satanic pedophile stuff that I know we think is funny, but that they think is 100% serious, the president just stood on TV and identified that as a left problem. And so when you have QAnon adherents committing acts of violence and terrorism, as they already have and will continue to do, the president has just pointed them at Democrats and the left and said, those are the people that I'm protecting you from. And they're trying to take down America, and when they take down America, they're gonna take down the entire world. That is what he said when he was asked a question about possibly the craziest conspiracy theory presently being followed, and being followed by more and more people every single day.
This is such a job for Black Jesus. I don't know what to say about the president of the United States saying something that egregious. Remember QAnon, and let's just take it out of the extreme theories, right? Because there are people that really believe this stuff. Let's take it away from that conversation just for a moment. Last year, the FBI listed QAnon as an anti-government organization that has, through their own rhetoric, created and incited acts of violence. Just leave it there. You don't have to go anywhere else. The president of the United States, the guy in charge of it all, didn't even mention that his own FBI considers them to be a threat in the United States of America.
Yeah, but it works out perfectly, because I remember when Donald Trump was gonna be sworn in as president. I remember thinking, so how exactly does this explicitly anti-government movement, how do they transition to now we're in charge of everything? And the answer quickly came out within weeks. It was, oh, the deep state. I forget. Before they were outside of government fighting the government. Now they're in government, but still fighting the government. And that's the thing fundamentally about QAnon that frustrates me so much. It's that it really is the ultimate example of a trend that I think has been true for some time, which is people don't like inconvenient information. They're very anxious. They just want to believe good things. And this is a movement that, for all the specifics about pedophiles and Wayfair and Q drops and whatever, fundamentally it's whatever you want to believe is true is true. That's all it is. And so when Q says in his first drop years ago said, Hillary's gonna be arrested tomorrow, the National Guard's being called up, that felt good for them to believe. And so they believed it. And when it turned out not to be true the next day, they didn't care and they just moved on. When the Mueller report looked like it was gonna be bad for Trump, they wanted to believe that it wasn't. So they believed, as QAnon people did, that Trump was working with Robert Mueller to weed out the pedophiles. And when Trump says he's mad about the investigation, that's just a smokescreen. So they believe that. They believe even now that Hillary Clinton is either arrested or dead, and that the person you're seeing is a body double or a hologram. They believe that for multiple people, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And they believe, so think about that, simultaneously believing everyone I don't like is not just wrong, but they've all committed criminal acts. They're gonna be arrested, or they've already been arrested. And I know that some people believe that they're not because we see them walking around, but it makes me feel better to believe that all these people are either locked up or dead. There are millions of Americans who this is how they approach politics and news now.
John, this is what happens when you get your news from Alex Jones. Bottom line. These fringe elements, right? They're dangerous because of this. Here's why they're really dangerous. Not because they think differently than other people. They're dangerous because they contextualize everyone else who's not them as somehow being evil, not human. They then spin a narrative that says that if these individuals are evil or not human, you can do whatever you want to do to them because they're evil and not human. That is the danger of their ideology, not just because it's different, but because it marginalizes the opposition in such a way that dehumanizes them at their core.
Yeah, you don't have to respect people, and you never, ever, ever have to, even for a second, consider something that makes you uncomfortable, some truth or reality that isn't exactly what you'd want it to believe. And so, just to throw it out again, because maybe there's a couple people that believe that QAnon, it's totally accurate. Like, sure, there's some crazies, but it's totally accurate. No, they said when the lockdown started that the reason the lockdowns were happening was not coronavirus. It was that Trump needed all of the pedophiles and Satanists to be at home so that he could mass arrest them. And that was why the lockdown was happening. So what happened to that? What happened to that prediction? It didn't actually happen, and that's not why the lockdown was happening. Has anyone left the QAnon movement because of that, again, horribly mistaken and obviously false prediction? No, because the fundamental element, again, is that you don't have to have an inconvenient thought. And so anything that you thought was true that turns out not to be true, don't think about that. That'll make you uncomfortable. That'll cause painful cognitive dissonance. And the whole point is to avoid that. Anyway, sorry, I get so angry thinking about this.
Me too, man. I feel your pain, brother. I feel your pain 100%, John. Yeah, but like, Michelle Obama said, it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. And we have to somehow try to fix the country when more and more Americans are immune to persuasion and immune to facts and fundamentally don't care if what they believe is true. They don't. They just want it to be comfortable.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.